So about twice a year, I go through a closet purge or a closet clean out, declutter, whatever you want to call it. The word declutter seems to be what's trending these days. So whenever the season changes, and yes, there are technically 4 seasons, but I live in Vancouver, so I'd like to think that there's really only 2. I just kind of like looking at what I currently have in my closet and assessing what are the items in my closet that I haven't been reaching for, or what are the items that I feel like are not really aligned with my style anymore, etc. And then instead of getting rid of these items right away, I've been storing them away in case I change my mind about some of these things that I decided to spend money at one point. So over the last couple years, I've collected this lovely pile of clothes that I've set aside for many different reasons. And I thought it'd be fun to categorize those reasons and share with you why I've decided to get rid of these pieces so that you can learn from my mistakes. I was able to come up with 6 main reasons, and some of them relate to my body type and color season, but some are also just more general reasons that I think can apply to anyone. And in the end, I'll also show you which items from this pile I've actually changed my mind about and decided to salvage. So let's go over these reasons one by one, shall we? Before we get started with the first reason, for your information, I am a suspected flamboyant natural in the Kibbe Body Type system, and if you want to see how I came to that conclusion, I have a separate video talking about it here. And in terms of colors, my dominant traits are deep and soft, and I'm the least sensitive to the temperature of colors as long as there's some depth and softness found in the colors. So with that said, the first category of items I'm getting rid of are items in the wrong colors. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for experimenting with colors outside of our color seasons and focusing on wearing what makes us feel good. But these colors that I'm getting rid of, I must say, I'm just not sure how to work with them. This green shirt, for example, it's a lovely spring green, clearly outside of my color palette. It's not deep enough or soft enough, but lovely nonetheless. And I've worn this maybe 3 or 4 times over the span of a couple years, a couple times in some of my other videos actually. And I think the issue I have with styling this piece is that 1, it's the wrong color for me, that's too close to my face, and 2, it's such a large piece that it's really hard to neutralize this color with any other pieces. I feel like the color has too strong of a characteristic of its own that I can really only pair it with neutrals. And like I said, I've had it in my closet for a couple years now, and I've kept it in there because I really wanted to make it work, but I just don't reach for it, and I also don't really feel like myself in it. Here's another similar item. I knew this was a color outside of my color palette, but I thought the half and half design kind of looked really cool. Again, I've worn it once in one of my videos on spring outfit formulas, and I've tried wearing it out a couple times, and I realized that I feel a bit silly in it. The half and half design that I thought was really cool ended up making me feel really self-conscious every time I wore it, and that's not really a good feeling, right? I mean, I'm fine with an outfit drawing some attention, but just the way I felt really silly wearing it was a big red flag and a sign that I've made a mistake with this purchase. I mean, thank goodness it was a very affordable thrift at least, but I've decided to get rid of it not only because it's the wrong color too close to my face, but it's also the wrong style. And speaking of, reason number 2 is items in the wrong style. Start off, these headbands. I got them for my wedding a few years ago, and honestly, I don't know what came over me. I don't know if it was just the stress of the wedding planning that got to me and made me want to try something completely out of character, but really, in what world was I thinking that these are my style? I have no idea. They didn't even go with my dress. This one particularly, my husband told me that I look like a baby. And after hearing that comment, I came to my senses and decided not to wear them for the wedding. But a lesson learned here and a tip I have for you is that sometimes your partner's thoughts on your fashion choices are worth listening to. My husband's the type of guy that has little interest in fashion. You know, an outfit's gotta be practical, functional, not too oversized, and that's about it. But I've actually learned that sometimes asking for his opinions helps me because he never overthinks about it. He either likes it or doesn't like it. And most of the times he can't articulate why. So instances where he can articulate his reason, that's usually a very good reason. Some other items that are the wrong style for me are these trouser shorts and this bodycon dress. In my last video on rule of thirds, I talked about how if we have short calves or shins in proportion to the length of our thighs, our legs will appear shorter altogether. So if we want to elongate our body or honor our vertical line in Kibbe terms, styles that cut the legs right around the kneecaps are not very effective at adding a lengthening effect. So for me, like I said, I'm a suspected flamboyant natural, although some of you seem to think that I could also be just a pure natural or a soft natural or dramatic classic. I think I'm somewhere in the natural family, and I'm also quite short, so I always try to dress myself in a way that elongates my body and my legs, and unfortunately these shorts and this dress do the exact opposite because they cut my legs right around the knee length. I think I've had these shorts for a few years, but I've worn them maybe once. I really wanted to get on with the whole Bermuda shorts trend, and at the time I made these purchases thinking that I could pair them with heels to make them work, but I'm actually getting rid of these because the heels are too high, so who am I kidding? But that brings me to the next reason why I'm getting rid of these items, which is they're just not comfortable. Like I said, these shoes, I'm actually sad to let these go because I love the design. It's made of really beautiful, soft leather, but in the end, they're just not comfortable. I used to wear high heels a lot in my 20s, so much so that I've actually developed a condition called Morton's neuroma. And now even these kinds of heels, which are not even that high to be honest, I just can't wear them anymore. Anything over like 1.5 to maybe 2 inches in heel height is just out of question for me. So unfortunately, it's time to let them go. I've kept them around for the last couple years, again, hoping that I would somehow find ways to wear them, but I just don't reach for them because they're not comfortable. And for the same reason, I'm also getting rid of this bodysuit, which I got when bodysuits were trending. And after wearing them a couple times, I realized I don't like bodysuits. They're just not comfortable enough for me. Especially this kind of stretchy material is too tight for my cooch. And speaking of things being too tight, one major reason why we find certain items uncomfortable is because they're slightly too small. At my usual weight, I'm kind of in between 2 dress sizes, and I try to opt for the bigger size usually, but when that size is not available, I'll always go for the smaller size, thinking I just need to lose some weight and I'll fit into it. I'll use it as motivation. And being a petite height and also being Asian and being surrounded by other Asians who often have small frames, I've always felt a need to be able to fit into a smaller size that other girls at my height and weight usually fit into. But I've learned that as someone whose body type is likely in the natural family, my bones are supposed to be blunt and wide. So even at my lowest weight, I've always felt like I was squeezing my body into a certain size rather than feeling comfortable in it. And I don't know why it's taken me so long to come to terms with the fact that my frame is just not that small. So I have some items here that I wanted to fit into, and I can kind of squeeze myself into them, but eventually I made peace with the fact that this specific size is not meant for my bone structure, regardless of where my weight is at. I definitely let my ego get the best of me with these items, and I hate that I've let my self-worth be dictated by the tiny little number or letter that's written on the tags, but hey, I finally come to the realization and we're Marie Kondoing all these complicated emotions today and letting go of the past, so if things are too small or uncomfortable, let them go. Alright, the next category of items I'm getting rid of is items made of purely synthetic or just cheap materials. I just find with these items, after a couple wears or after a wash, you can really tell they're not made for longevity. They'll usually lose their shape, start pilling, etc. This black sweater, for example, is made of 100% synthetic material. And with these synthetic sweaters, they can be somewhat deceptive when you first purchase them because they feel really silky and smooth, but that wears off very quickly, usually after 1 or 2 washes, and then they start pilling like crazy. And I've tried using fabric shavers to sustain the lifespan of these items, but it's just a lot of time spent on trying to save something that's so poorly made, and the pilling usually continues quite excessively, so I just don't find spending that time and energy to be worthwhile in the end. I know, of course, affordability is a huge factor, and we can't always opt for the highest quality possible when it comes to shopping, but educating ourselves a little bit more on fabric composition and durability, I think, is definitely important if we want to find pieces to add to our wardrobe that'll stand the test of time. The next category of items I'm getting rid of is loungewear, and the reason why I'm getting rid of them is because I have too many of them. We all have items that are too worn or they get stained or ruined, so they eventually make their way into our comfortable clothes pile. And I've noticed that I just have way too many of those now. And the thing about having too many loungewear or comfortable items is that, at least for me, I always just end up wearing them all the time. Especially because I'm working from home 100% of the time, I don't really have a need to dress myself in a presentable way. And because I have so many of these comfy clothes, I feel like they've really just become my default pieces that I would throw on first thing in the morning without even thinking about what I'm gonna wear for the day. And I realized that this habit has really been hurting my sense of style. Like, I'm on this platform talking about ways to improve our personal style, yet I'm in old pieces of clothing with holes in them a lot of the time. So I've decided to get rid of a lot of these items. I mean, I already have my workout clothes, I have my PJs, I have nicer, newer clothes. There's really no reason for an excess number of stretched out t-shirts and sweatpants with holes in them to take up more space in my closet. So I'm saving a few of these pieces for when I'm doing things that will get my clothes dirty and stuff like that, but no more beyond that. Speaking of old and worn out clothes, here's a really good reason to get rid of some items from our closet, and that is the items are simply just too worn out or too out of style. And these are the items I feel really good about even though I'm getting rid of them, because I know for sure that I've gotten enough wear out of these pieces and they've been worth every single penny. These black trousers, for example, these used to be my go-to pants for a very long period of time because not only were they super easy to style with pretty much anything, but they're also very stretchy and comfortable, and it's been an extremely versatile piece in my closet for a number of years. But they are quite worn out and out of style now, and they're not something that I'd keep around as loungewear or move into my comfy clothes pile either. So pieces like these, even though I'm getting rid of them, I really don't feel any sort of guilt or remorse because I've given them all the love and attention that they deserved. So it was great while it lasted, and it's time for them to move on and exit my closet gracefully. And then everything else that doesn't fit into one of these 6 reasons nicely, I put them into the maybe pile. And I'm actually salvaging a few items from this pile. This beige crop top / bralette, for example, I initially thought I'd get rid of it because it's not really a color that does anything for me. But if I layer it under another piece, I think I can still make good use of the item. So I've decided to keep it. I also have this ivory cami, which I'm not even sure why it ended up in this whole get rid of pile in the first place. And this is exactly why I like setting aside my decluttered items and revisiting them after a while, because sometimes in an effort to make everything so clean and decluttered and perfect, I definitely have a tendency to over purge at times. And with the whole minimalist trend and decluttering everything to simplify your life becoming such a hot topic over the years, I think there's just too much focus on literally Marie Kondoing our entire lives. I mean, Marie Kondo herself even said that she's sort of given up on keeping things tidy at all times. So sometimes it's just nice to take a step back and store things away instead of immediately tossing them out. And when we revisit them, we might even be able to get some great finds through the process. I actually have a couple more items that I am salvaging from this pile. These jeans are one of them. These initially landed in my get rid of pile because I had gotten them altered and accidentally cut off too much length. It was totally my fault, and I also decided to cheap out on alteration costs and not keep the original hem, which ended up giving these jeans a really cheap sort of undone look that I hated. But I've been looking for a pair of lighter wash jeans for this summer, and while I was going through this whole pile of clothes, I decided to make it a project to fix these. So I actually found a really cheap pair of jeans in a similar wash at Salvation Army, and I took the original hem from those jeans to attach to these ones, and now they look great and they're the length I want. So it's probably saved me a couple of $100s in finding a new pair in a similar wash for this season. I also salvaged this clutch. I think I initially thought of getting rid of it because it was kind of out of style, but now I look at it again and I think it's really cute, and it's real leather and it's good quality. And the decision to keep this clutch had to do with my recent experiment with Alison Bornstein's 3-word method for finding your personal style. For those of you that haven't tried the 3-word method, I think it's absolutely brilliant and it's been helping me out a lot recently. I've been feeling quite bored and stagnant with my style, and I've just been a little lost. with my style lately, but Allison's 3-word method has really felt like I'm getting a second win. So my next video is actually going to be about my experience with the whole method and how I'm using it to style some of the new spring and summer items that I've also added to my closet. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure to subscribe and come back for more. I hope you found today's video helpful. If you were able to relate to any of the reasons I've talked about today, or if you've come across any other reasons that's keeping your closet cluttered, I'd love to hear them, so share your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you in my next video, and until then, stay unique and stay gorgeous.